They say winning ain't everything. Well, we don't have them type conversations over here, man. Had that conversation with the losers. We trying to win at everything we do. Even in the loss, we don't see defeat. We see a lesson learned. Straight up. Look, I came into this world in 1978. The doc looked me in my face and knew I was something great. 45, 42 Prescott, that's where I'm from. Grew up in the slums around dope dealers and bums. As humble as I was, I adapted to my habitat. In my own lane though, far from where they crashing at. Dumb bar graduate, the game I'd have mastered it. Served in the Navy, look, y'all don't know the half of it. Pops passed in '01, moms passed last year. I know they up in heaven smiling down, crying mad tears, cause they son making it. No telling where I'm taking it. My city been cursed, but I feel that I'm breaking it. Coached at Wayne High in 15 in one state. Seen the fork in the road and went straight. I know what I'm worth, I'm OG King CURT. Brooklyn Nets gaming crew legend, let's work.
Hey, this is OG King CURT, your host of the OG2CENTS podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you who tune in every Sunday. We truly appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Also, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Helps us out a lot. Let's continue to speak out against all forms of racism and injustice. This episode is brought to you by Zenni Blocks. Make sure to armor your eyes with Zenni Blocks virtual clear blue blockers. It's important to protect your eyes from the harmful blue light from your digital screens so you'll have less eye strain, and that makes for better sleep and performance. Check them out at zenni.com/gaming or follow them at Zenni Gaming on Twitter and Instagram. This episode 27, the Inside Scoop with Brandon Scoop B. Robinson. He's known professionally as Scoop B. He's a sports writer, a journalist, sports analyst, columnist, editor, and podcast host who is a senior writer at Heavy. He's a television analyst at MSG Networks and a senior columnist at Basketball Society. He's been a radio host, television contributor at CBS Sports Radio, a staff writer at The Source magazine, and managing editor and columnist at Respect magazine. Amongst royalty today. He's interviewed the likes of Pete Sampras, Gloria Alfred, Alvin Iverson, and more. So with further ado, Scoop B, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing good. Somebody's got to update my bio. I'm not mad. You can keep talking though, but Heavy.com is the place where I still am. Had a cup of coffee at MSG Networks. Basketball Society is still family, but man, the Scoop B Radio podcast was really moving. 2.1 million streams last year. We've had anybody from Shaq to Charles Barkley to Tiki Barber to Stephon Marbury. Sports entertainment lifestyle. It's pretty cool to connect with you also because I am part of the Zenni family. I'm a brand ambassador with Zenni on the Bulls side. And so if you look at my desk, my desk is filled with different Zenni glasses right here. So and I got more over in the closet. So those white ones I have there somewhere, but man, it's pretty cool to sit down and talk with you, being you cross similar paths.
Appreciate it. Just jumping right into it, I just want you to, tell your story and how you got to where you are today.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I was a kid that was always talking. As a kid, and my parents, my mom, my stepfather who raised me, put me in a position where, I was in public speaking groups and, church, being active, doing all those different things. But basketball was always my passion. That love for basketball started as a kid. My uncle, Billy, my late uncle, was a commissioner for a basketball league in Harlem called Citywide. And anybody who came out of there, was somebody. Kenny Smith, Stephon Marbury, Kenny Anderson, and the list goes on. But that kind of sparked my interest being around my uncle. What ended up happening was my family owned a sneaker store and a shoe store on 125th Street, the only black-owned athletes foot in Harlem. The only black-owned athletes foot in New York State. And so what happened was I was around a lot of celebrities. Dominique Wilkins would do sneaker releases. Hakeem Olajuwon and more, like Drexler. So I was always around basketball. The big break as a child came. I had a radio show with the Nets called Net Slamming Planet. I auditioned for it, and basically I was around NBA players in NBA locker rooms on a day-to-day basis. So we're talking 97, 98 season. I did it for 2 years, 97, 98, 98, 99 season. I was in the locker room with Stephen A. Smith when he was at the Inquirer, Chris Broussard when he was at the New York Times, Woj, Adrian Wojnarowski in the locker room with him when he was at the Bergen Record. And that kind of just that I knew then that that's what I wanted to do. I did it for 2 seasons. I talked about the 97, 98 Bulls season. I was around Michael, Scotty, Dennis, Luke Longley, Ron Harper, Phil Jackson, the latex winner in the Nets, or in the visitors locker room at the old Meadowlands Stadium in New Jersey. But I think that started my passion. But to be honest with you, I'm more proud of the work that I'm doing now. I think that was an early start. It was a crash course while I was a step for the college campus. But yeah, man, those were my foundations.
Yeah, so I mean, your list of what you do is extensive. Who were some of your influences coming up?
I fell in love with just the art of journalism as a young kid. I used to watch 60 Minutes and on Sundays, and I used to watch Ed Bradley, the late Ed Bradley, and the way he asked the question why. Why is such a powerful word? And he's somebody that I grew up admiring. And then I think Ahmad Rashad, who hosted NBA Inside Stuff, right-hand man to Michael Jordan. I actually, was featured on that show, and I don't tell this story often, but I don't think I've talked about it on camera. Like, I was actually invited to go to the set of NBA Inside Stuff back when he hosted with Willow Bay, and got a chance to sit down with him and talk with him and get to know him, and I never forgot that experience. Just a guy that transitioned from playing football with the Vikings to being an NBA reporter, a sideline reporter, and latching on the Michael very early. And Ahmad is somebody that I really, really, really admired, if not like Bradley.
Got you. We spoke a little earlier, just to get some more detail about Scoop B Radio. You had a lot of prominent figures on there, including one of my players, Chalk. Let's talk about that for a minute and how people can get in tune with Scoop B Radio.
Scoop B Radio is available on all streaming platforms, iHeartRadio, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or simply visiting scoopbradio.com. This is about as New York as it sounds. Scoop B Radio started out of a Timberland box. Literally, I had tapes and tapes of episodes of me being on that Slamming Planet or being in a locker room interviewing players. We're talking to Dikembe Mutombo, B.J. Armstrong, Scott Burrell, Kendall Gill, just a multitude of just 90s legends. And me and my business partner, DJ Maniel, who produces the podcast, we were just discussing, like, how do you digitize this? So this was back in 2016. And how do you put my childhood nostalgia but mix it with what's going on with me now? I was still in that brain building phase. 2015, 2016. I graduated grad school in 2011. Was living in my late grandmother's basement apartment at her house, and we were just in the process of building. And so basically, we took those tapes from my mom's house, digitized them, and it's really started out as a time capsule, not as a podcast, but in the shape of a podcast. And what ended up happening was, like, we had interviews with, like, J.R. Reed that we made. We had interviews with, I sat down interviews with, like, Laura Stiles from I-97. Just a multitude of different people. And so what ended up happening was, I was at CBS at the time when we started. I had 2 podcasts, one at CBS, one at home. And then we started getting more updated guests. People wanted to talk about different things, like Kenyon Martin, Tim Thomas's beef. Kenny Smith discussed some things with me that went viral. So just really building and literally starting out of a Timberland box, and 4 years later, I feel like I'm often asked about the podcast, how we created it, how do we get the numbers, how do we get the guests, and the simple thing is prayer, relationships, and working from home. This pandemic is nothing new for me.
Right. You just said a mouthful with that, because I'm definitely getting started, and I understand that wholeheartedly. What are who are some of your favorite interviews over the years?
On the podcast or just in general?
Both.
So right now, I am daily on the Philadelphia 76ers Zoom calls. And I went to college in the Philadelphia area. I went to undergrad at Eastern University, which is not too far from Lower Merion High School and Kobe Bryant High School. And so I know the Philly area very well. I worked there and, went to school there. And I'm enjoying talking to Brett Brown a lot. And I think part of it is the accent. He's from Maine. He went to Boston University. And hearing his insight on basketball is fascinating to me. He won 5 championships as an assistant coach with the San Antonio Spurs. As a college student, studied under Rick Pitino, who was the head coach at BU. And so I find Brett Brown fascinating. Right now, I find his interviews and talking to him fascinating. So the other day, I asked Brett Brown about Cam Newton going to the Patriots and his thoughts on Tom Brady and Belichick. And he goes, I tell you about, just hearing them talk, but also just getting insight. It's something different because people are stuck in a bubble talking about basketball. Break it up a little bit.
Right.
So to me, stuff like that is fascinating. As it relates to just interviews at large, I think you remember, like a rap artist or a musician in general who remembers their first album, you never forget certain interviews that put Scoop B Radio on the map, like my interview with Tim Thomas where he talked about Kenyon Martin, where, he talked about their beef. He called me and wanted me to do the interview. And then you have stuff like with Kenny Smith, where I asked him about, Michael Jordan, had he not retired, the Rockets still have won 2 championships. So stuff like that. You remember the earlier days of the podcast. Now, I'm really just enjoying doing other things. Like we're literally putting out episodes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays right now, and mixing it up with prominent women, sports analysts who are in the bubble or covering a certain team, and then like people who are on the rise of the next, like Mina Steph, who's a skateboarder, had her on recently, and it's just different. It doesn't just have to be basketball. We're tying in some football. We had David Wilson of the New York, who played for the New York Giants, on the podcast the other day, talking about his days with the Giants. So cool to mix it up.
Gotcha. Who are some people that you wanted to interview but you haven't?
Barack Obama and Jay-Z.
Got that. Hey, that's it probably don't get no better than that. I'm a big Jay fan. I've been. I think I got it. I was R&B first coming up. I got into hip hop. Well, actually, it was some phases then. Because to me, I think it probably didn't get any purer in hip hop in the '80s and early early '90s. But we had our phase. It's entered the gangster rap era and different stuff like that. But once I heard Jay-Z, like it was. I like bars, man. I like metaphors. I like all of that. So it was easy. I was easily captured by Jay-Z. So man, that's a heavy hitting list. Thoughts on sports returning during COVID-19?
I wasn't a fan of it. I'm glad that the numbers are not affected by COVID. The NBA has done a good job in managing things in the bubble. I'm happy. Basketball is a sport I love. To me, basketball is a year-round sport. So, like, we're at the time right now, right? So, like, we're in a situation where we were teenagers, we'd be outside playing basketball on the court all day or in the park all day. We have that in our homes. This is kind of like with the Olympics not going on. This is our Olympics right now. And so I'm glad basketball is back. I don't mind that there's no fans. I think it's pretty cool that, players are still, playing, making a living. People who are working are still making a living, whatever department that they're in. Because the NBA laid off a substantial amount of people back in March and April. So, I'm glad to see people aren't getting laid off, people aren't working, or people are still working. But, I still have my druthers about just health and more. Literally stuck in an area for 3 to 4 months. It's still, many players that I've spoken to have just described it as AAU.
Right.
I think it was Mike Scott told me the other day. Mike Scott of the Sixers said, "This is overpriced summer camp."
Hey, that's what's funny. That's what I was thinking when I was watching some of the scrimmages and the highlights. Is that's what it looked like? AAU teams waiting, they waiting for their turn to play and different things like that. So it definitely put me in that frame of mind. What were you doing when kind of the world stopped and the pandemic arrived? Well, arose. Like, where were you up? What were you up to?
Literally working from home, recording more podcasts, and honestly doing a lot of thinking, planning, writing, praying, catching up with people. I think, this space of working from home is great. I was already doing it. I think the part that was added to it was traveling. And I don't miss traveling right now. I think for me, I have not been in one place sitting down since 2003, my senior year of high school.
Man, I think I was reading a story about I want to say when you was with the Source, how you crowdfunded travel money to make it to the All-Star game.
I did.
I thought that was impressive. I mean, can you kind of talk about that story a little bit if you care to?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Source magazine. Was a break for me as an adult out of college, and they weren't paying. I was working for free, and I needed an opportunity. And it was an opportunity that didn't pay, but got access. And I didn't have the money to fly to New Orleans, despite the fact that I was credentialed to go. And so what do? You don't want to be like bothering your parents asking them for money. You want to try to find a way to make it happen. I use social media to do what I needed to do.
Yeah, it was great. I like that story. I mean, because part of my show is just being positive, motivating and inspiring people to basically live out their dreams and go after what they want. And different stories like that definitely can help people. I mean, like you said, that one thing, just notice this how access is important, but having that will and that drive to carry out what you can control to further that access is even more important.
Oh, sure.
Who do you think will win the NBA championship?
Who do I think is going to win?
Yeah.
The Los Angeles Lakers.
You a big LeBron fan?
I like LeBron. I like Kyrie. I like Anthony Davis. And yeah, I mean, it's. I like what I like. I like who I like. And I want to see LeBron win. I'll tell you that. I've been on the front lines of just everything that's been going on with the Lakers the last 2 years. And, LeBron going to LA, Space Jam, Anthony Davis, J.R. Smith, and some of the other moves that have been made. I've also been wrong about some too. Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, there was talk of them both coming. But what I'll say is, I think LeBron's first stint in Cleveland was like the 13th, 14th, and 15th grade, or like community college. I think LeBron going to Miami was going away to college, and I think his second stint in Cleveland was his master's degree. And I think his time in Los Angeles right now is his PhD program.
I like that breakdown, man. I think that's truly the way we can look at NBA basketball as far as players making the jump from high schools to the pros. I probably never heard it worded any better than that. The 2K League. You've been a part of that for a while now, interviewing some of his finest players and everything like that. What are your thoughts on the 2K League stemming from season 1 until now?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was glad to get the invite to the 2K League. I have to give a lot of love and respect to NBA 2K at large. I am in my player mode, which is pretty cool. I grew up playing the game since Allen Iverson was on the cover, and I was playing on NBA on a Sega Dreamcast. So just being around 2K in that regard, it's just a carryover from high school to now to college, and I feel like 2K has been a part of my journey, since forever. I don't have as much time to play it now as I once did, but I'm familiar with you. I'm familiar with Chuck. I'm familiar with Dimes, who represents Dallas, correct? I think that.
Yeah, Mavs GG.
Yeah. And then, I know Ronnie. I've had Ronnie on Scoopy Radio a couple of times as well. So to answer your question directly, I remember the first draft, and the draft was pretty awesome. They had it at the Madison Square Garden Theater. Dimes was the first pick, and I just was fascinated just how far, Biggie says, whoever thought hip-hop could take it this far, who thought video games could take it this far. Now it's in the limelight trying to rhyme tight, blow up. You know the words, but basically, like when I look at the 2K League and what it's been able to do, is giving people jobs in a very fickle economy, and it's allowing people to showcase their talent in a great way. White, black, green, purple, orange, blue. I just think it's a great opportunity for people to actually get paid. I remember when they said that video games were for stupid people, and I think that 2K defies that myth. You have to have good hand-eye coordination to play it. I could play against some of these guys. I play exhibition, but I wouldn't say I'm the greatest. I do like to play for fun, but 2K having a league, you got to be pretty daggone good just to participate, man. I can't say I watch it often. I know some of the key players in 2K, like my guy Jeffrey Eisenband, who's considered like the Woj of the 2K league. But nah, man, I rock with you guys. I really respect what you all do.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. What are some of your favorite choices of video games to play when you have time?
I would play one game, literally 2K. They send it to me on the door every year. When I get 5 seconds, I play it. I'm so busy, like, and not to say that 2K is not enjoyable, but I'm just so busy working, building a brand, building a life, traveling. Even when I'm home, still doing what I'm doing. It feels like that is my video game of life. I feel like I'm like Sim Scooby edition.
No, I can dig that. I mean, I obviously I played a lot before I got to the 2K league, but now I pretty much play. I play more in the off season, but then once probably like 2 months into the off season, I'm back to managerial duties and different things like that. So I definitely I understand. What's next for Scoop B as we keep moving. I know the podcast is, like you say, that's pretty much the bread and butter, and it's doing some great things. I was listening to some episodes earlier today, so I enjoy it. Huh?
Which one did you listen to?
I got caught up. I listened to the Chalk episode, and then it was another one I played after that. I can't remember which one. I just followed it on Spotify. But I'm definitely gonna be tuned into it. I love the intro. I love the music, the intro, the ad libs. I like all of that.
So I'll tell you something. So growing up, NBA Jam was one of my favorite games. And if you listen to Scoop B Radio Overtime, the guy who's doing those voiceovers is actually the voice of NBA Jam, and he those ad libs.
Oh wow, that's dope. Yeah, I definitely back kids today will never know about putt golfing games, but that's literally where we used to have the NBA Jam battles at and yeah. So I remember, man, that's dope. I was like, because I like creatives. Like for me, I always was the type person when I seen somebody do something, I used to be like, man, why I didn't think of that? Or like, like that's dope. Like I ain't never had an ounce of hate in my blood. Like I just like creative people. I like being around creative people. I like learning from creative. So that's why, like, when I listen to different podcasts, I'm looking for something I haven't heard or haven't seen or different things like that. And it definitely caught my attention.
Yeah, creatives are in a way that I think it's being magnified now, but I think it's creating brand and not necessarily being attached to an organization, or using your personal brand to attach to an organization and vice versa. It's something that's really, magnifying now. And I think that the byproduct of that is partnerships. Zenni, for me, Zenni Optical is a partnership. Zenni is expanding from the Bulls to, the Nets gaming, but I think also, I think the downside of being creative is a lot of criticism. Like, I'm looking at my mentions on Twitter now, stuff people are saying to me, and it's like you think of rebuttals, and I think that's the part I enjoy about having a blue check next to my name and responding, because I grew up before social media, and like when I get off this conversation with you, I'm like, you know what up. But I feel like I grew up in an era where you actually had to play the dozens. You actually, you knuckled up and you did what you need to do. So, I think oftentimes it's easy to criticize somebody, but you can't argue with or take constructive criticism from anybody who hasn't constructed near a thing. So I think just in this creative space, I'm really enjoying it, because I think that Corona has really tapped into a level of my childhood that I haven't really experienced and looked at since 6, 7, 8 years old.
No, I definitely, I say that to myself all the time. I look at social media, and it's like when I was coming up, we had to talk face to face. Like we had to see each other. Like you didn't get a chance to hide behind a profile and whatever you decided to put on the screen at the time. But definitely, growing up through that period has made me more prepared to deal with a lot of, like you said, criticisms that you may take from time to time. And then what I try to tell people, that, a lot of people want to be in the limelight, fame, celebrity, however you want to put it. But you definitely have to prepare yourself for what comes with it. And social media has made it a lot more wicked, because, I was talking to Brian Mazik, and I seen that. He made a valid point. He was saying that, nowadays, a lot of kids don't know how to take L's, and largely because, like, now if you take an L in the modern day era, that L never goes away. Like, back in the 90s, if something happened to you or whatever, people had to dig that up to put it out now. But mostly, whoever witnessed it, that's all who seen you took the L, and then everything else was word of mouth. But now, shoot, once it's video footage, it's put on all platforms, and it's gonna be retweeted, shared, stored, all of that, and you're probably gonna have to see it the rest of your life. Your kids probably gonna see it. So it's definitely a different day and time that we're living in. Before we get out of here, how can people follow you on social media and what you do?
Scoop B on Twitter, Scoop_B, and Scoop_B on Snapchat and Instagram. And you can subscribe to Scoop B Radio on all streaming platforms and check out my written work. I am a senior writer at Heavy.com. You can check out my written work at Heavy.com. And you can check out that Brett Brown piece that I was describing.
I actually watched that. Like, I try to watch as many clips as I can for what you do, because I have a strong. I love journalism. I love the content behind it. Each and every the different styles of each journalist and everything. So I'm heavily engaged into that, man. I want to thank you for coming on and doing my podcast, and because I know your time is limited with all the things that you have going on. So I'm definitely grateful for that.
No, I appreciate you. And when the new 2K comes out in September, within that time frame, let's get you on to discuss the new game and everything that you have going on.
Cool. I bet that's a deal. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode. Make sure you follow the OG2CENTS podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, and YouTube. Follow me on social media at OG King CURT. That's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Go to www.ogkingcurt.com for everything OG King CURT and the podcast. Shout out to my team, Dave at the 2K Zone, Box Graphics, Strider Visuals, and Cy Evermore. Make sure you tune in to the 2K Zone shows. The 2K Zone Roundtable every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. 2K Zone Center Stage, that's every Monday, 8 p.m. and every Wednesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. All shows streamed live on www.twitch.tv/2KZN. Catch me on EsportsXTRA every Wednesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. That's with host Larry Ridley, the crew, Renee Montgomery, Antonio Williams, Durbin Roel, and Kevin Mamuzet. That's Compete Forever on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Make sure you tune in to next week's episode. And remember, if it makes sense, it's an OG2CENTS. OG out.
Put this work in, fellas. And much love to the entire 2K community for always showing me love. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. Yeah.